At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Hey folks, thanks for checking out the Phillies Talk podcast. I'm Corey Seidman and he's Jim Salisbury. As the NLCS transitions from San Diego to Philadelphia and the Phillies and Padres play Game 3 Friday night at Citizens Bank Park, it is Ranger Suarez going for the Phillies and Joe Musgrove, tough right-hander, going for the Padres. Jim, after the Phillies blew that 4-run lead in Game 2 and the series evened up at a game apiece, you start to look ahead in this series. Suarez going in Game 3 for the Phillies. Game 4, it's uncertain. Could be Noah Syndergaard again in the bullpen behind him. This is a precarious point in the series for the Phillies. They're back home, but you could say that the Padres have the starting pitching advantage over these next 2 games.
Yeah, I would say they do. Though I've seen Ranger Suarez pitch some dandies over the years. And it would be a good time for one of them. But this Musgrove guy's been a good pitcher for a long time in Major League Baseball. And everybody's learning his name now because he's in the postseason. He's a San Diego kid who has a lot of investment in his hometown team, and he has really delivered in this postseason. Went into Citi Field and won a clincher up there against a 101 win team. In a difficult environment with Buck Showalter pulling his gamesmanship, and then he beats the Dodgers 111 win team in a clincher in the next series. He's pitched 13 innings this postseason, allowed just 2 runs. He's really good. Phillies have seen him before. They've beaten him before. But he'll be on top of his game. The Phillies need Ranger Suarez to be on top of his game. This is a very pivotal Game 3 going into Game 4 when, they're going to roll the dice on that sort of bullpen relay race, I kind of call it, where, try to get 9 outs from the starter, whoever that may be, Falter, Syndergaard, Gibson, and then, inning by inning, based on matchups, get 3 outs, get 3 outs, get 3 outs. It worked like clockwork in the clincher against the Braves with 15 strikeouts and no walks. I mean, the no walks, amazing, just limiting base runners and striking guys out. I don't, you can't expect that to happen all the time, but first things first, they need a good one from Ranger tonight, and they need to swing the bats against Joe Musgrove, and they need to feed off what we both know is going to be an electric crowd.
Yeah, it sure will be. Ranger Suarez in Game 1 of the NLDS against the Braves lasted just 3 1/3 innings. He walked 5, put 8 men on base, but only 1 of them scored. So he was able to minimize the damage. But, we've seen both sides of Ranger Suarez this season. We've seen him be really efficient, really good, and get quick outs. In fact, when he started against the Padres this season, his lone start against San Diego, it was his longest start of the season. He went 7 1/3 innings, allowed just 2 runs to the Padres on a day where the Phillies beat up on Joe Musgrove, kind of an uncharacteristic bad start from Musgrove that afternoon back on June 23rd. But, Ranger Suarez, what do you expect in this start? There are days where he's nibbling too much. There are nights where he mows down the competition.
I don't know what to expect. That's, the beauty. That's why you play the games, right? We can all, make predictions and look at the stats and script it out and say, this is the way it should go. And then boom, you never know. You're dealing with human beings. But I've seen him be really, really good over the years. A year ago, if they go in the postseason, he's your number 2 starter ahead of Nola. So we know what he can do. It's about doing it. I guess, it always comes down to Ranger is a lot like Aaron Nola. They're not going to blow guys away. They need to put the ball in good spots. They need to locate well. He needs to bury that ball inside on right-handers so they're not diving out on him. So location, location, location. We saw Nola get burned by poor location in Game 2. We saw him thrive three straight ones. In Houston, in Atlanta, and then in St. Louis, and then Atlanta. We saw him thrive on location. When he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. He's going to get hit hard. So Ranger, kind of the same way. He relies on location, soft contact, work quick, throw strikes. I guess if I had one concern, it's he hasn't pitched in like 10 days. And, I would kind of, everybody's mid-90s these days, so it's hard for me to call Ranger Suarez a finesse pitcher. But, I think there's a lot of feel in his game. So I guess the 10-day layoff would be my biggest concern there. We'll see how he does. He's never pitched in a game this big. And, you mentioned the Atlanta game. The 5 walks, that's not Ranger Suarez, the poor economy of pitches, the quick exit. But I will say this, he loaded the bases twice early in that game, and both times got out of it. I think once with a strikeout and once with a ground ball. That showed me a lot that the guy controls his emotions. They talk about the slow heartbeat, and Rangers got one. Rangers definitely got one. He's a cool customer. He's not a young guy anymore. He's a veteran guy. He's seen things, and I think that showed in that Atlanta game when he pitched out of 2 bases loaded jams early, and that was huge. Otherwise, they could lose that game. So they'll be looking for the same thing tonight. They need to get more innings out of him than they got in Atlanta for the simple reason, tomorrow's going to be the bullpen relay race, right? Game 4 is going to be the bullpen relay race. So Rob Thompson needs his bullets in that bullpen in Game 4. And it's up to Ranger Suarez to kind of, keep the old powder dry and keep those bullets intact for his skipper. So I think it's going to be a fascinating night. So I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect from either one of these guys. But tell you what, Musgrove's tough. Ranger can be tough. And it's going to be just kind of fun to watch it all play out.
Yeah, Musgrove's one of those like old school bulldog right-handers, goes right at you, big guy, really a heavy fastball when he's going well. That start against the Phillies earlier this season, though, I don't think you can really read too much into it. That was a rare outing for Musgrove, maybe his worst of the season. Struck out just one batter over 6 innings, but the prior 3 times he faced the Phillies over the last 2 seasons, 3 straight quality starts, few hits over 6 innings with a lot of Ks. So he could be tough on the Phils. Jim, just quickly looking ahead to Game 4, the Phillies are not going to use Zach Wheeler on short rest. Rob Thompson made that clear yesterday. Yeah. So the 3 options, Noah Syndergaard, Bailey Falter, Kyle Gibson. Gibson pitched an inning and a third of relief in Game 2. Falter has now gone a while without pitching, and Syndergaard did go through the Braves order once in the NLDS. Would you think that he has the inside track, Syndergaard, to going through the lineup that first time before the bullpen relay race begins?
Well, he certainly proved himself against Atlanta, so he could. But, you do have some tough left-handed sticks in that lineup. And if they're only going to look to go through the lineup once, get 9 outs, maybe it's Falter, with Soto there, with Cronenworth there. You got some tough ones. Josh Bell. Well, Josh Bell's a switch hitter. So I don't know which way Rob Thompson's going to go. He did hint that it doesn't necessarily have to be Syndergaard. But, we'll see. Syndergaard certainly proved himself pretty well against Atlanta. He did a really good job in that, getting those 9 outs. So who knows? But it's really important they have a fresh. It could matter a little bit what happens in Game 3. So we'll see. I don't know how he's going to go, but it sounds like it's going to be definitely one of those 3 guys: Gibson, Syndergaard, or Falter. It wouldn't surprise me to see Falter get a shot, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Syndergaard get a shot. So we'll see.
Well, in Game 2, it was a disappointing result for the Phillies, jumping out to that 4-0 lead. They had that really strange second inning where everything went well and Juan Soto missed the ball in right field. But you got the sense in the bottom half of the inning when the Padres responded with back-to-back home runs from Drury and Bell off of Aaron Nola that this game was going to play out a little differently. It was the second straight start that Nola was staked to a huge lead. Phillies gave him a 6-0 advantage the previous time in Atlanta. This time in San Diego, he wasn't able to hold on to it. I'm sure almost every Phillies fan watching that game play out had to be reminded of the Cliff Lee game back in 2011 when he was unable to protect the 4-0 lead, and just how that can change the momentum of a series. That fifth inning, that had to be pretty loud out in San Diego, huh?
Yeah, it was loud. I mean, the game turned in the second inning when he didn't put up a shutdown inning. You get 4 in the top of the second, you can really demoralize the team if you kind of keep them down there in the second inning. And the Padres got 2 big home runs, and they were loud home runs. That ball that Drury hit was like 10 feet off the ground and just a bullet over the left field wall. So that brought that crowd to life, and it gave that team hope and momentum, whatever. They didn't feel out of it. And then the fifth inning, he just threw fastballs, over the plate. And he can't do that. It's like Ranger. He's got to put it in good spots. And, that at bat to his brother, Austin Nola, I mean, it was 0-2 fastball up. And Austin Nola did a good job top-handing that ball to right field. And then there was another fastball to Soto that kind of just sinker kind of came back onto the plate a little bit. It wasn't a terrible pitch, but I mean, Soto's a great hitter. So yeah, I mean, that would have been, to go up 2-0 there would have been, it's a series changer. 2-0 as opposed to 1-1 is just huge, especially when you're coming home for 3 games in front of this crowd. So now it's a best of 5. That's what it is. It's a best of 5. And, but that, it reminds you of the Cliff Lee game, except that was a best of 5 series. This is a 7-game series. So, we'll see. Aaron Nola, after that game, and, I've covered him since he arrived here, and I think I know what makes him tick. And he seemed particularly anguished after that game. I mean, he's always, a gentleman in his dealings with reporters after the game. I just sensed, he was tired of the narrative that he's facing his brother. And it wasn't that he gave up a hit against his brother. It was that he, feels like he let the 26 guys in that room down. I really sensed that he felt that he let that team down. And he's a quiet kid. He's a soft-spoken kid, but he's got kind of an internal fire. And I've seen him bounce back from bad ones before. I just think if this gets to Game 6, I'm not saying he's going to pitch the best game of his career. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I'm really curious to see how he rebounds. It would not surprise me if he rebounds, quite favorably.
One of the biggest at-bats in that game, too, was not with Nola on the mound. It was when Brad Hand came in to relieve him, and he was ahead in the count against Jake Cronenworth, and then he hit him with a breaking ball, and really the floodgates opened from there. Hand was unable to retire any of the 3 batters he faced. He's a guy who put a fair amount of men on base this season, but kind of worked around it. That was a big spot, and that definitely contributed to the Phillies losing that game. Jim, David Robertson appeared later in the game, and he allowed a run, allowed 3 hits. Was there any concern afterward on how he looked, or did the Phillies come away feeling satisfied with how he is physically?
I mean, I think he's fine physically. I mean, the velocity was there. It looked like the push was good off the mound. He just threw a fastball down the middle, and Manny Machado hit it up to La Jolla. So you throw a fastball down the middle when you're not 99 to 102, you're going to get crushed. So, you got to, if you're going to throw fastballs down the middle, it's got to be above the barrel, and it's got to be 98 to 100. That if you're going to throw it right down the middle at 92, 3, 4, even 5 these days, you're going to get clubbed. These guys train for velocity. They're underneath every day in the batting cages, hitting off the high velo machine. It's pretty much right on top of them. Pitchers these days train to develop velocity. Hitters these days train to hit velocity. So even when you're power, you got to locate it. But they were just in that game in San Diego, the Phillies are up 2-0 if they don't throw fastballs down the middle. And the Padres are a good hitting team, and anybody in the major leagues can hit a down the middle fastball.
Yeah, and those hittable pitches on 0-2 counts that hurt Aaron Nola in Game 2, that was a problem last year. It was last year, right?
Last year you gave a lot of 0-2 hits. I have some stats somewhere, but yeah, I mean, it's just 0-2 mistakes. I mean, they kind of knew. He knew Kim was going to run there, right? In that when he was facing his brother. He knew he knew the guy was stealing because he kept throwing over. And I understand why he threw a fastball in that situation, but why not pitch out maybe if you know he's going, right? It was, big pitch, big out. He's trying to get the fastball up. It wasn't up enough. His brother did a good job top-handed it. I mean, that's how you hit a high fastball. So you can't make mistakes over the plate, and that is actually quite topical heading into Game 3 because Ranger Suarez is though left-handed, though a little different. There's some similarity there. They both rely on putting the ball in good spots. So a lot is on Ranger Suarez tonight. That Padres lineup built some confidence. The way they hit around Nola, the way they kept it going, the way they came back from 4 down. And kind of Ranger has to stop that and preserve the bullpen a little bit based on their strategy for Game 4. And I know people are asking if Wheeler should pitch on 3 days rest. No, that would send a panic wave through the clubhouse, and that would be a horrible message to send to your clubhouse. Nobody performs well under panic situations. You wouldn't get the real Zach Wheeler. It'd be something less than Zach Wheeler. So unless it's a clinching game, like I remember 0-3, Jack McKeon used young Josh Beckett in Game 6 on short rest for the kill shot. If it was the middle of that series, I don't think he does that because it's going to throw all the rest of your pitching out of whack. If the 2009 World Series got extended, Charlie Manuel was going to use Cliff Lee on 3 days rest for the kill shot. But I just don't think you do it at this stage of the series, especially for a guy who's never done it before.
Right.
Never done it. Rangers are more than capable. Tomorrow, that strategy. Rangers more than capable to give you a good one tonight if he delivers, if he executes, and that strategy they employed, against Atlanta, and they're going to employ again in Game 5. I'm not saying it's going to work like clockwork again. I mean, I don't know if it can ever work that well. 15 strikeouts and no walks, and that was incredible. But I think it can be enough if you score some runs, and just 1 out at a time. It's like a relay race to 27 outs, and the offense has got to give you a little cushion. So it's fascinating postseason. Postseasons are always fascinating. This is a fascinating one for the Phillies because they feel like they got 2 great starters. Aaron slipped in Game 2, and then there's a drop-off after that, and they're going to try to piece it together after that. But, I mean, you could never do that over 162, but you might be able to do it over a week.
Right. I mean, it shows you the value of having the sort of rotation depth that the Padres have. I mean, they legitimately have 5 guys they'd feel comfortable starting in a playoff series. Manaea has not pitched in the playoffs. It's unclear who would pitch for the Padres in Game 4. It could be either Sean Manaea, the lefty, or Mike Clevenger, the righty. So here we go. Games 3, 4, and 5 at Citizens Bank Park. Phillies hosting the Padres. It'll be interesting to see what the atmosphere at Citizens Bank Park is like if the Phillies don't jump out to an early lead. Because remember, 6 early runs in one of the games and then 3 early runs the next night certainly factored into how loud people got, how confident everybody was from the fans in the stands to the guys in the dugout. So Phillies and Padres, it's Ranger Suarez and Joe Musgrove, 7:37 Eastern tonight. Hope you enjoy it. We'll talk to you soon here on the Phillies Talk Podcast.